this is my effort to try to communicate what creativity is in the context of innovation. And I'm going to be talking about that with another word called design. I saw a Smithsonian short on the latest exhibition around design, design studios that are being shown right now in the Smithsonian centers. And it seemed like you could transpose the word design and the word innovation rather freely between the two of them. And yet the vernacular that we're all familiar with, creativity in design, is much more applicable to everyday understanding. I'm going to be including that sort of in the dialogue. I hope that you come away with something that you could find to be useful in your workplace. I want to address the innovators or the idea makers in the group, the people who are responsible for facilitating change in your organization. I want to make sure that you're fueled with something that you can take back with you. But more importantly, I hope to address the decision makers in this group, because without you, all of this effort is at best PR and advertising for your business. And at worst, it's going to be a waste of your resources. You have to commit to actually doing something with these good ideas. You have to actually embrace the idea of being creative and driving innovation forward. Otherwise, you're just not going to achieve anything. So with that, I want to make sure that you guys understand some of the context of innovation itself. If we take a look at your fit to the business and the customer relationships or the existing markets or the kinds of products that you currently offer, where there's an easy fit and you're serving existing customers in current ways, what we call that is really your core business. That's what you're already doing. And you can innovate in that space, but you're probably taking a look at very, very small stuff. You're talking about maybe process improvement to a certain degree. If you wind up looking at spaces that are undefined to your business, areas that you have not currently explored but are still defined by the same markets or the same products, what you're talking about are incremental opportunities. You're expanding your business a little bit. You're offering a new flavor of ice cream alongside the previous tub of ice cream. When you wind up taking it on the x-axis and you explore new markets in new ways, what you wind up achieving are adjacencies. So this would be somebody selling candy in addition to the ice cream they already made, for example. You're really offering an entirely different product line. And then finally, up in the far right-hand corner, something that they call the suicide box, you've got white space radical innovation. This is the really breakthrough stuff. This is the sort of thing that redefines your business. It is the icon. It is the revolutionary trend that winds up influencing the entire category that you operate in. It doesn't happen by accident. It's a huge challenge. There's lots of risk tied to it, and that's what I want to talk about next. By the way, in each one of these 4 boxes, this is all about preference with your business. You've got to decide what you want to get, but the risks and the returns are commensurate. So if you want to operate within core business and try to do really small stuff, that's okay. But you ought to expect probably not the radical stuff that's going to come from the upper right-hand box. It's just a question of what you're willing to tolerate in terms of risk. So as we explore risk and innovation using the same grid, the areas that you already know represent the sum of your knowledge. So you're probably really familiar with your core business, the things that you already do. But as you explore new markets and new products in different ways, you're weeding out what you actually know. And your assurances relative to how you apply that to your undefined part of the business are also going to be unknown. And what emerges instead is a series of assumptions. And this can be shaky ground for a lot of people. If you're not comfortable being on that shaky ground, you're probably not going to pursue that area on the right, unless you want the outcomes. And then you have to decide to get comfortable with them. And one of the themes that I want to emphasize as we explore this creativity discussion is you got to do it to get comfortable with it. Very few people got good at it right out the bat. They tried it and they failed, or they tried it and it felt awkward, or they tried it and it just didn't feel good to them. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. And you have to actually try it. So, no innovation dialogue is complete without a process slide. Here we have innovation process. You've got the stuff that you do down here along the bottom. This is the sideways funnel. Everybody's seen the sideways funnel. Lots and lots of ideas on the left-hand side. You filter through them, you vet them, you winnow them down until you achieve very few things on the right-hand side, but those are the best ideas, right? So you start out with research, and you do concept development, and you develop prototypes, and finally you design something that's really impactful. And the things that you're thinking about are the world of uncertainty and how you identify patterns out of that uncertainty and what sort of insights you gain, whether it's customers or needs, and finally you achieve clarity and focus. And inevitably, you're sort of striving for this point around here at the end where you wind up really launching something, bring it to market, and you've got this great success. But, and case in point is today, The inevitability is that you have this big snarl right here, right before the dawn. It's always darkest right before the dawn. Something always happens, inevitably, no matter how well you plan. And this morning, I arrived here 30 minutes in advance. I was ready to go with my presentation, and I forgot this little white cable right here, which completely prevents my laptop from communicating to the projector. I almost expected it. I didn't know exactly what was going to happen. I was going to get a flat tire, I was going to get a ticket, or something was going to happen, but that's just the way it works. That's sort of the world we live in. So let's talk about design in general. What's the difference between these two images? We have two sort of abstract, vivid, colorful images. You could identify maybe one of them. The other one is a little bit harder to identify. You've got the museum in Abu Dhabi, which is the Guggenheim Museum design that was produced by Frank Gehry on the left-hand side. And you got Jackson Pollock's 1951 Blue Poles on the right-hand side. I said one is out of the box and the other has no box. The design that's represented here is out-of-the-box design, totally different from traditional design. Frank Gehry really pushed the envelope when he achieved that. There is no box with Jackson Pollock. He was purely expressive. He was incredibly passionate. He wanted to indicate where his inspiration was coming from, and so he created art. The previous image, by the way, the one up the upper left-hand corner is, I'm going to use my shadow here if I can, I don't know, that entry shot up inside that light area. That's actually what you see when you walk into the Guggenheim Museum. So when you start to talk about qualitative value relative to art, it's extremely subjective. Creativity has a bearing on this, but if you're talking about classic black and white photography from Americana, you're looking at sculptural standards from the ancients or pre-Roman period, sort of talking about proportions and how you actually sculpt pieces. Modern photography and design layouts, abstract expressionism or textiles. This winds up being a highly subjective exercise. What works for me doesn't work for you. We can talk about the quality of art, and it is a rich dialogue that I'm sure people in this room enjoy talking about, and audiences in the theater enjoy talking about as well. I've gotten in conversations around communication and clarity and appeal and art, but in the end, it comes down to subjective interpretation. Design is a little bit easier to articulate. The quality of design is something that we can actually talk about, and I think we have a commonality with it. The Bang & Olufsen earbuds, has everyone seen those before? They're awesome, beautiful, right? They defined an entire category. Before you had these big cans that you put over your ears. And they said, no, that's not cool. This is really cool. The computer chip that's up there is a Radeon graphics card that is able to drive gobs of megapixels through giant screens. You might not think it's an elegant design, but believe me, that chip is beautiful by engineering standards. The Nike logo, the folding bike, this funky advertising in Germany, all these have a design aesthetic that everyone can recognize. Everyone is able to appreciate it to a certain degree. They have characteristics that apply to mechanical engineering or usability or consumer experience or all sorts of properties of products and services.